Hello, everyone. I'm really pleased to have this opportunity to welcome all of you participants to the Geospatial World Forum. And Dr. Sanjay Kumar and all at Geospatial World, congratulations on your 25th anniversary. When I began my chimpanzee behavior research in Gombe National Park in Tanzania in 1960, my only tools were one pair of second-hand binoculars, pencils, and a supply of paper. But once the chimps lost their fear of me, those were the best days of my life, when I learned not only about chimpanzees, our closest relatives, but also about the complex interrelationships of plant and animal life in the rainforest ecosystem. I could have stayed there forever, learning more and more about the chimps and building up a small research station. But in 1986, at a conference of chimp researchers, I learned how right across Africa, forests were being destroyed and chimp numbers were decreasing. Scraping together a few funds, I visited several field study sites and learned about the environmental damage caused by foreign logging, mining, and oil and gas companies, the increase in the bushmeat trade, that's the commercial hunting of wild animals for food, and the killing of chimpanzee mothers to capture infants for the international wildlife trade. But at the same time, I was learning about the plight of so many African people living in and around chimp habitat, the crippling poverty, lack of good health and education programs, and degradation of the land owing to human and livestock population growth. My concerns came to a head when I flew over the tiny Gombe National Park. In 1960, it was part of the great equatorial forest belt that stretched across Africa. By the late 1980s, Gombe was a little island of forest surrounded by bare hills. There were more people living there than the land could support, overused infertile farmland, people struggling to survive. And that's when it hit me. Unless we can help these people find ways of making a living without destroying their environment, we can't save chimps, forests, or anything else. The villagers were cutting down trees simply to get more land to grow more food or make money from charcoal timber. In 1994, JGI finally got funding for our very holistic Take Care or Takari program. We didn't go into an impoverished village as a bunch of arrogant white people telling the locals we were going to improve their lives. Instead, a team of carefully chosen local Tanzanians went into the 12 villages around the park and asked the people what they thought we could do to make their lives better. Today, Takari involves, among other things, protection and restoration of the forests, water management programs, and microcredit opportunities so that people can start their own small, environmentally sustainable businesses. We offer scholarships to give girls a chance of secondary education, since all over the world, family size tends to drop as women's education improves, and we provide family planning information. Now Takari is in 104 villages throughout Chimp Range in Tanzania and in several other African countries. At this point, I would like to introduce Dr. Lillian Pitea, who joined our JGI team in 2000 and introduced a new element into our Takari program, GIS, GPS, and satellite imagery as tools for conservation. Today, Lillian is Vice President for Conservation Science at JGI. He is a passionate advocate for working not for but with local communities and putting the tools to monitor their environment into their hands. He works with local communities on the ground and technology partners such as Esri, Maxar, Planet, and others to unlock the power of technology for conservation. And at this point, I would like to invite Lillian, my colleague and friend, to explain how geography and geospatial technologies can be key tools to help connect people, animals, and the environment in a meaningful conservation program. Lillian, over to you.
Thank you, Jane. Hello, everyone, and thank you for the invitation to be part of the Geospatial World Forum. Jane, I remember when we first met in Gombe National Park in Tanzania in 2000. We looked at this historic aerial photo from 1958, acquired just a few years before you arrived in Gombe. The entire landscape was covered by a natural mosaic of forest, woodlands, and grasslands connected to Gombe. When a year later in 2001, we got our first high-resolution satellite imagery from ICONUS, we were shocked to confirm that most of these forests and woodlands outside the park were converted to farmland. By 2005, local people started to experience an increase in landslides, flash floods, and stream erosion as a result of tree cover loss. And this was when local communities decided to work on their village land use plans, facilitated by the GGI Takare team, with support from USAID, and using approaches such as geodesign, conservation planning, and use of geospatial technologies supported by ESRI, Maxar, and other partners. Today, high-resolution imagery help us see that many of these forests and woodlands are in the process of being restored through natural regeneration as part of the interconnected village forest reserves set up by local communities as part of their village land use plans. Village forest monitors selected by their governments are equipped with smartphones and Survey 123 mobile apps and continuously monitoring their forests, sharing their observations with local decision makers through dashboards and decision support and alert systems powered by ESRI ArcGIS technologies. What local communities around Gombe managed to achieve here changed my view on conservation and how to leverage and use innovative technologies to build resilience in our social and ecological systems, and gave me hope. A few years ago, I had a chance to join you and our Tanzania colleagues and listen to local communities interpreting the satellite images. One woman pointed to an area on the imagery when she used to have a farm very close to her house. She had to move her farm because the village land use plan delineated that area as a village forest reserves. Now she needs to walk an extra hour a day on steep hills to reach her new farm. I asked if it was worth it. She pointed to deforested hills, an eroded stream on 2005 satellite image and said, "You see, back then, we did not have trees on the hills. We had landslides, erosion. That building near the stream is a school. One day, a flash flood almost destroyed the school. I had 2 children at the time in that school. Now look at the recent images. The trees are back, the streams are looking better. I better walk an extra hour a day, but know that our children are safe." That's why when representatives from the village government reached to farmers, one by one, like her, many other farmers moved their farms to benefit the community. I was struck by her story because the power of geography and geospatial technologies was unlocked not only because communities had access to these technologies, data and training facilitated by GGI, but also because, thanks to our Takari approach, these technologies and other science approaches became part of a decision-making process owned and driven by the local people themselves. At GGI, we see geography and geospatial technology as essential conditions to help connect the needs of people, animals, and our shared environment, and scale our conservation impact around the world. From using ESRI ArcGIS conservation solutions to daily manage the largest chimpanzee sanctuary in Africa, to protected area management, to planting trees and restoring forests in Uganda, in all these applications, our Takare community-led approach is key, creating spaces as part of locally owned decision-making processes where technology providers, scientists, local communities, government decision-makers, and others could have a dialogue, develop a common understanding and trust, and convert this amazing data into shared knowledge, wisdom, and better decisions for people, animals, and our shared environment. I would like to thank our technology partners, especially ESRI, Maxar, and Planet, and invite you all to join our mission. Thank you, and back to you, Jane.
Thank you, Lillian. The one thing that separates us most from chimpanzees is the explosive development of our intellect. And Takari is a perfect example of how technology can help conservation. But it will only make a lasting difference when our brains work in harmony with our hearts, where poetically we seek love and compassion. Thanks to Takari and JGI's wonderful team, the villagers understand that protecting the environment is not only to save wildlife, but also for their own future. They've become our partners in conservation. There are no more bare hills around Gombe National Park, and that's just one example of the resilience of nature if we give her a chance. As Takari grew, I realized that if new generations didn't understand the importance of conserving nature, all our efforts would be vain. Fortunately, even before Takari, I'd started a program for young people, Roots and Shoots. It began in 1991 when I found that around the world, many students were depressed, angry, or simply apathetic as they realized what was happening. Harm to the environment due to poverty on the one hand, and unsustainable and greedy lifestyles on the other. If our young people lose hope, there is no hope. Roots and Shoots members from kindergarten through university choose projects to make the world a better place for people, animals, and our shared environment. They choose to work on problems they are passionate about. They inspire each other, and they encourage others to join. And again, technology makes a huge difference as we can arrange virtual meetings between members of different countries. And there are 65 countries now with active Roots and Shoots groups, many of them involved in citizen science. The program is empowering young people all around the world as they realize that each one of us makes a difference every day. And Roots and Shoots, of course, is in all the areas covered by Takari. Technology is helping people understand the connection between biodiversity loss, the climate crisis, and the emergence of new zoonotic diseases such as COVID-19. It's our disrespect of nature and animals that provides situations such as trafficking of animals around the world, wildlife markets, factory farms, and so on, that provide opportunities for pathogens to spill over from one species to another, which may give rise to a new human zoonotic disease. I do hope that all of the participants of this conference will think about these connections and the importance of protecting and respecting wildlife and providing programs such as Roots and Shoots to help young people realize the important role they can play in creating a better world. For any of you who are interested in Roots and Shoots, we will willingly provide you with more information. It's very clear, isn't it, that we need a critical mass of people, especially young people around the world, who understand the role each one of us can play and the need for action. Now, before my time runs out, I want to thank Jack Dangermond and the Esri team for our 20-year partnership, and Maxar and Planet and other geospatial technology partners for their ongoing support, and to thank all who've helped develop and maintain our programs, including JGI staff, local communities in the countries where we work, and governments around the world who've enabled us to operate in their countries. And thank all of you for listening. Bye.